The Satanic Verses controversy is one of the most debated and sensitive topics in Islamic history. It centers around a brief episode described in early Islamic sources, where the Prophet Muhammad is said to have momentarily uttered verses that endorsed pagan Meccan deities, a claim that was later rejected and the verses removed. Whether this event actually occurred has been a matter of intense theological, scholarly, and historical scrutiny. The name Satanic Verses comes from the idea that these verses were not revealed by God, but were whispered by Satan and mistakenly believed to be divine revelation. This concept hinges on the reports from early Islamic historians and commentators such as al-Tabari, al-Waqidi, and Ibn Ishaq. These scholars describe an incident during the early period of Muhammad's prophethood in Mecca. Under pressure from powerful Quraysh leaders, Muhammad reportedly recited a verse during the revelation of Surah Al-Najm, chapter 53, in which he acknowledged the intercession of three goddesses worshipped by the Meccans, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. The exact phrase attributed to this event is, "These are the exalted cranes, Garanik, whose intercession is hoped for." This line would have dramatically contradicted the core message of Islamic monotheism. According to the reports, the Meccans were pleased by these words, and for a moment, harmony appeared possible between Muhammad and the Quraysh. However, the story continues that soon after, the angel Gabriel returned to Muhammad, rebuking him for having spoken words that were not part of God's revelation. Muhammad, deeply disturbed, is said to have retracted the verses, asserting that they were whispered to him by Satan. This led to a new revelation, known today as verses 21-23 of Surah Al-Najm, where the three goddesses are sharply denounced. "Have you seen Al-Lat and Al-Uzza and Manat, the third, the other? Is the male for you, and for him the female? That, then, is an unfair division." The idea that the Prophet could have momentarily been deceived by Satan is deeply troubling to Islamic orthodoxy. Sunni and Shia traditions alike stress the infallibility of Muhammad in his role as a messenger. As such, later Islamic scholars such as Ibn Kathir and al-Qurtubi strongly rejected the story's authenticity, labeling it a fabrication. They emphasized that the chain of narration for these reports is weak and contains unreliable transmitters. However, many modern historians and Western scholars of Islam argue that the existence of the story in multiple early sources and its inclusion in biographical works otherwise sympathetic to the Prophet suggests it may have some basis in fact. The principle of embarrassment in historiography argues that early Muslims would not have invented a story so potentially damaging unless it was widely known or difficult to refute. Some scholars have noted that the term Garanik, translated as exalted cranes, is rare and archaic, further complicating interpretation. Others argue that the verses could have originally been intended as satire or rhetorical imitation of pagan beliefs, which were later misunderstood or misrepresented. From a political and theological standpoint, the controversy also reflects the extreme pressure Muhammad faced during the Meccan years. His monotheistic preaching threatened the socio-economic order of Mecca, which was built around the Kaaba and the worship of many deities. A temporary attempt at compromise, whether real or apocryphal, would have had enormous consequences. Additionally, the entire episode raises profound questions about the nature of revelation in Islam. If Satan could, even momentarily, insert his words into divine communication, what safeguards exist to prevent further interference? The Quran itself addresses this in Surah Al-Hajj 252. "Never did we send a messenger or a prophet before you, but that, when he desired, Satan threw into his desire. But Allah abolishes what Satan throws in. Then Allah makes precise his verses." This verse is often cited as theological support for the idea that while Satan may attempt to interfere, God ultimately protects the integrity of his message. But the very existence of such a verse has also been interpreted by some as a tacit acknowledgement of the possibility of satanic intrusion, if only temporarily. The controversy surrounding the Satanic Verses was reignited in the modern era, most notably by Salman Rushdie's 1988 novel of the same name. Though fictional, the book's reference to the historical episode sparked outrage across the Islamic world, leading to bans, protests, and even a fatwa calling for Rushdie's death. This modern fallout underscores how potent and unresolved the implications of the original story remain. Ultimately, the Satanic Verses episode sits at the intersection of faith, history, and interpretation. For devout Muslims, the integrity of revelation is non-negotiable, and any suggestion that Muhammad could have erred is rejected as heresy. For historians, the event remains a compelling window into the complexities of early Islam, the pressures faced by its prophet, and the evolving understanding of divine communication. Whether seen as fact, fabrication, or something in between, the Satanic Verses narrative refuses to disappear. It lingers in ancient texts, modern debates, and theological polemics. And perhaps more than anything, it forces us to confront the tension between sacred history and historical reality.